I used to shop a lot, but I started noticing how I got home, maybe enjoyed the items for a bit, and then got the urge to shop for something else. If this is you too, it's not a coincidence. It's what scrolling is influencing us to do. It wasn't until I realized that I was living in that constant state of dissatisfaction and constantly craving more. It's not a fun way to live, and it was draining my wallet. I think this is why we're seeing the buy nothing rebellion just take over the internet. I think we're all a bit fed up with junk items that don't actually improve our lives. Embracing a more minimalist lifestyle has changed everything for me. I'm able to save more, use my money in ways that actually bring value to my life, like having fun experiences with my family or paying off our mortgage early, which is our goal, so that we can live a life that's less stressful. It's not about depriving yourself or being strict or never buying anything again, but there are some things I wouldn't purchase again and things I'm more intentional about. But when if you buy any of these items, this is not me judging you. I don't say you should or you shouldn't in my content for a reason. But for me, a little change of perspective on these 20 things was really helpful. So take what you will from this list. The health fads, those pills and creams and weight loss products and all of these items that we are marketed that are supposed to make us, look good or look the way that we want to. I distinctly remember being a teenager and buying those teenage magazines that were everywhere, and some of them would come with things like cellulite cream. Why would a teenager need cellulite cream? Or all of these different products that obviously didn't work, and they were just sending us this constant message that something is wrong with your body that needs fixing, and the only way to fix it is by buying this product. And I started working out more seriously about 6 months ago, and I'm definitely seeing such an improvement in my body and how I feel. I haven't necessarily lost any weight, but it's just, building a bit of muscle or feeling stronger has made me realize that you don't really need any pills or creams or anything like that to feel good in your body. It's actually those really simple habits like eating just a bit better and exercising a bit more. It doesn't have to be drastic and dramatic changes, but it's those little habits that actually change everything. Trends. I do not think all trends are equal or all trends are bad. Skinny jeans are out. Baggy jeans are in. Make sure no one knows you wear socks. Ever. Okay, no, now we can wear socks all the way up to our knees. This is constantly changing, and if you look on social media, you will constantly see things that are maybe in your wardrobe and maybe you even enjoy wearing that all of a sudden are no longer in trend, and it makes us feel like we should get rid of those and buy the new trend. But in reality, if it's a product that makes you feel good, if it's an item of clothing that you love wearing, if you love your skinny jeans, wear your skinny jeans. Because my guess is that yes, baggy jeans might be trending right now, but in a few years they'll suddenly make a comeback and will be marketed again to buy those skinny jeans again. So, I think it's more about finding those timeless pieces that actually work for you, for your body type, for, how you feel in your clothes, rather than constantly just buying the new trends. Because I found that it's something we can never truly keep up with. Because I feel like the second you reach that goal that you've wanted for your wardrobe, they move the goalpost and suddenly there's something else you will need to buy. Planned obsolescence is something that makes my eye twitch when I think about it. But it has been proven again and again that some products are deliberately made to have a short lifespan so that you have to replace them more often, even if the product itself would technically last a lot longer, but they change it so that you have to replace it more often. What a waste. I think one of the most famous examples is the light bulbs one. It was back in 1920 that companies realized that the bulbs they were making would actually last for a very long time, and so they changed them so that they last for a shorter amount of time, because that meant customers would buy more and obviously increase their profits. And this is a known thing, and I think it is illegal in some areas in some countries, but it still exists. Sometimes it's a bit more subtle these days, but I think it still exists. When you buy a product that's like very cheap plastic, or you can just tell by how it's made that it's not made to last for very long. Those are the kind of products that I am trying to avoid these days. A new car. The biggest drop in car value is when you drive a new car out of the dealers. That effect is very well known, and it's called instant depreciation. So when we buy a new car, in 1 year it loses about 10 to 35% of its value, and in 3 years it loses up to 60% of its value. And we learned this the hard way. We actually bought a new car when we had our first baby because we felt like we need a family car, we need a new car. We felt like if it was new, it was more reliable for some reason. And then we ended up moving country and actually selling the car maybe like a few years later because we couldn't take it with us back then. And yeah, looking back, it was kind of a waste of money, but it was a lesson learned for sure. Fun fact, when we moved to London, we actually didn't own a car at all for the first year or so because we were just walking or taking the train or the tube or whatever. I feel like London is quite walkable, so we didn't own a car back then. But when we did buy a car here in the UK, we opted for a used one. We bought ours, I think it was about maybe 3 or 4 years old, the car, when we bought it. And so it was in great condition. It was fairly newish, I would say, in my book. And I think we saved a lot of money buying a used car instead of buying it new. And we also saved up our money to buy the car, so we have no monthly car payments. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are able to save, you know, a much bigger chunk of our monthly income. Whereas if we had those monthly car payments, that would eat up a lot of those savings. So I don't see us buying a new car anytime soon. A physical calendar is also something I don't buy anymore. I used to in the past, and I kind of like the look of them sometimes. I like the idea of them, but I realized that for us, it's much more practical to have a digital calendar because we can sync it up. We just use a Google calendar and it's synced up between me and my husband, and we can see each other's work, holidays, events at the kids' schools, doctor's appointments, anything that we kind of need to know about. It's all in there and it's synced up in real time. So it just feels very practical for us. In the future, that might change, but at the moment, I feel like a digital calendar just works so much better for us. And it's also what I use for all of my work as well. Amazon Prime is also something we don't get anymore because we realized for like 99% of things, or maybe even more, we do not need them on our doorstep the next day. And in fact, I think giving yourself some space between buying the product and getting it is actually a good idea because it allows you to take a step back and really ask myself, you know, do I really need this product, or am I just buying it out of convenience, maybe because it's cheap, you know, maybe just an impulse buy because I had a day. So we haven't had Prime in a long time now and we don't really miss it at all. Unnecessary insurance. Now, of course, there's certain types of insurance that you have to get. So like when you get a mortgage, you have to have house insurance. So obviously we do have that. You have to have car insurance and things like that. But there are a lot of kinds of insurance things I have found. They are constantly bombarded at us. You can have life insurance, you can have white goods insurance for all of the items in your house. And there's so many different kinds of insurance. You can insure your phone or your laptop or so many different things. And I think in the grand scheme of things, as long as we are able to save, you know, have some savings in case of emergency, in case something happens, I don't really feel the need to pay an insurance every month for all of these random things. And if something does break, if something does need replacing, we can just use our savings for that. And I think long term, that's going to save us a lot more money than paying monthly insurance for all of these random things that may or may not break. And also when they do break, sometimes the insurance will come up with reasons not to actually insure your item. So that's another story. Plastic plants is also something we don't really buy anymore. And I used to have so many of these. I feel like they were such a trend back in the day. And I decorated my house with a lot of those plastic plants. And I don't know if this comes with age, but I realized I much more enjoy having real plants in the house. I would always tell myself I'm really bad at keeping plants alive. But I think what I found is that I was always over watering them. Like you would try to keep them alive, so you would water them again and again. But actually, they don't need that much water. Like once a week is fine for most plants. So we've had a few plants that have lasted us years, and I am quite proud of that. So yeah, plastic plants is not something I see myself buying again. Tupperware is also something I don't really want to buy anymore. We've actually replaced, it wasn't really the brand Tupperware, it was just like random food containers we had. There were plastic ones, and you know how they get discolored if you put them in the dishwasher, and I know they're not really great like health-wise as well. So a few years ago we actually swapped them for just glass containers, except for the kids ones. Like obviously if the kids bring them to school, I can't really give them a glass container, can I? So for the meals that we have at home, for leftovers, everything like that, we just use glass containers. And I think it's one of those small tweaks we can do for better health. And yeah, just having a few of those in our cupboards works great for us. More kitchen gadgets. I used to have so many things, like, you know, I had a slow cooker that I wasn't using much. I had sandwich maker. I actually loved the sandwiches it made, but I very often avoided using it because of the cleanup. I don't know if it's just the stage of life I'm in. Maybe later down the line I might want one, but right now I gave it to someone else because I was just not using it. And it's so many different kitchen gadgets that we can own that we feel like are gonna make our lives better, but they actually don't. And they're just cluttering up our kitchen. We don't really use them, like a waffle maker or all of these kitchen gadgets that, you know, we might have, but we're probably not really using. I think the only like kitchen gadget that I have is like this blender that's got a hand blender and a mixer. It's like a 3-in-1 sort of thing, and I use that for pretty much all of my kitchen needs, I guess. Lots of shoes is also something I don't really want to buy anymore. I'm not saying I'm never going to buy shoes again. Of course I will, because they break eventually. But I am trying to be a lot more mindful and only keeping a few pairs of shoes that I actually wear on repeat, that go with a lot of my outfit. I just feel like that's a much better decision for us. And trainers have gotten expensive, so it's not really my goal to have a lot of them, and just having a few that I wear on repeat is what I'm going for. Plastic toy, like party bag fillers for kids, is something that I do not enjoy. We're planning my daughter's birthday party. I've been kind of trying to come up with ideas for the past years of things to put in there that are not those little plastic toys that will break as soon as they get home and get put in the bin, because I think that's, you know, just a bit wasteful, and it's not toys that they actually play with. If they stay in your house, they're just gonna end up being clutter, they're annoying, and so that's not something I wanted to put in her bag. So what I did instead is I'm gonna put a lot of little like snacks that the kids like, some little crisps, some chalky biscuits, some of those things. I'm gonna put some stickers in each of the bags, and we actually had this at my son's party and the kids loved it. We did some of that air dry clay. You know how you can get it, it's kind of like Play-Doh, but then it dries up. So you make your little figurine, and then by the end of the party it will dry up and the kids can take that home in their party bag. So, you know, it's something they created, and that's all we're gonna do for my daughter's party as well. So hopefully they like that. So yeah, if you have any other ideas for party bag fillers, let me know, because I think that would be helpful. Things that are not like plastic clutter, you know. Random subscriptions is something I'm trying to be more mindful of. And when I do sign up for a subscription, you know how you'll sign up for a trial sometimes and it's like 40 days or 30 days. And because I'm trying the product, I may or may not want to actually, you know, pay for it. So what I do when I do start the trial is I will put the end of the trial in my calendar, and I'll put in there, you know, trial expiry for whatever service. And this kind of gives me a chance when I look at my calendar to make sure that I cancel it, you know, before I get charged if I don't want to continue using it. And I think that saves me a lot of money, because in the past I would just leave it, I wouldn't do anything about it, and then all of a sudden you get charged for the thing, and then I remember, oh right, I wanted to cancel that, but I forgot. Lots of streaming services is also something I feel like can be such a huge money sink, because if you do that consistently every month for a lot of streaming services, it can really add up. So now we keep 2 at max. This is kind of our family rule right now. So we've got Netflix and Disney at the moment, so that I can keep watching my Grey's Anatomy. Am I the only millennial who's never watched Grey's Anatomy? Like, this is my first time going through the series. Yeah, and my kids can watch their Disney shows. Excess food is something that I feel like just ends up in a lot of waste, and that's what we found in the past too. If we bought a lot of stuff, we went in the shop and we just impulse bought, you know, things we thought we needed for the week, we did end up with a lot of food waste, or sometimes we'll have ingredients but not enough to make a meal. So nowadays I do make a meal list. So every week I'll write a meal list, and that's just so simple, like just 5 dinners. That's all I write on there. And then we have some of those as leftover the next day for lunch. And then I'll grab some little bits for lunch as well, like some little salad things and some breakfast things as well. And I do an online food shop that is delivered to our house every week. And I find that this way, doing a food shop online or using a scanner when you go in the shop, because some shops offer that, it makes me see what the total is for my cart before I actually go and check out. And that's really helpful, because it can help you stay within budget. It can help you realize when you're going a bit overboard with your food shop, which I have done in the past. And it's really helpful to have that plan and to buy the things for the meals I'm planning to make for the week, and not end up creating a lot of food waste. Anything on credit or a loan is something we don't buy anymore. So whether it's cars or clothes or items, we do not use credit cards anymore. We don't want to get things on a loan. The only thing that's kind of credit, I guess, is the mortgage that we have for the house, and that's something we're trying to pay off early. And I know in some countries, having a credit card can help with getting points or whatever it might be, but for us, I don't feel like that enough of an incentive to use them. And when you have money that you don't actually own, I think it's very easy to overspend, and it takes you being very, very disciplined, and on top of it, to not have to pay any interest or have a lot of overdrafts. And so for us, it's just easier to not have them and just use the money that we actually own. Plastic carrier bags. It's something I'm trying not to buy anymore, and I think I've gotten pretty good at remembering to bring my reusable carrier bags when I do go to the shop. I have a few of them, and then I just reuse those whenever I go shopping. So this means I don't really need to buy those plastic carrier bags that can, for one, it's waste of money. It's not great for the environment, and also it ends up cluttering your house because they can really accumulate. So that's something I'm trying not to buy anymore. Fabric softener. I used to use this, and I realized when I started looking at the labels on my clothes and being more mindful of how I wash my items to preserve them and keep them looking nice for as long as possible, I realized that on a lot of clothes it says not to use fabric softener. Like, for example, on your jeans, on leggings, on towels, on a lot of different items it says you shouldn't use it. And I was just using it on everything because everything went in one load in the washing machine. I didn't really separate. Yeah, I just stopped using fabric softener, and I realized I do not miss it. Like, it hasn't really made a difference. That's one item I don't think I'm gonna buy anytime soon. A better water bottle. There are so many different water bottles these days. I feel like it's become a bit of like a fashion statement to hold one of those water bottles. I just go with a bit more of a functional approach, I guess. So we have one water bottle per person in this house, and it's a stainless steel one for each of us. And I don't really see the benefit in having like 20 different water bottles in the house, except for it cluttering up our homes. It can, obviously eat up into your budget because they do add up. Doesn't feel like much when you're in the shop and it's like, oh, it's 10 or 20 pounds or however much. But when you buy 20 or 30 of them, then it really does add up. New baby gear. Things like a buggy, a stroller, the baby carrier, a baby swing. There's so much gear that you need or want when you first have a baby. And I did a bit of research, and from my research, the typical new mother spends about £1,000 preparing for a baby. 1 in 20 is spending more than £3,000 just preparing for the baby. And those costs can really, really add up. So when we had our babies, we tried to get hand-me-downs. Actually, for our second baby, we were already in the UK, and I set up this little baby nursery like next to my bed. It was literally just her crib next to my bed. And I did a video on that back then of how much everything costs that I bought for her, like preparing for her arrival. And I got a lot of things on Vinted. I got some hand-me-downs. And so I think everything that we bought was about £700-ish. That's almost $1,000, I think. And that included everything: the crib, the car seat, the buggy, literally everything, the clothes. But it can really add up. And I think if you can look at pre-loved items, especially the newborn, the baby ones, like they do not wear them for very long. Like, for example, in that baby swing, she was in there for maybe a couple months. I can't even remember, but it's not very long, and then they outgrow it. And so for us, it was really helpful to get some of the things pre-loved. Let me know what are some things you don't buy anymore. I would really love to hear from you. And I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one.